Hey everyone, it's Josh. I believe I've already made a video about this, but I feel like making another one. Without further ado, hold on, with further ado. Sorry about that. I forgot to close my bathroom door so you wouldn't hear my dryer. Anyway, um, we're going to talk about how I stayed safe in the streets. And in order to talk about that, you got to understand that there were two me's, two versions of Josh in the streets. There was the me that originally hit the streets, that was homeless for my first few years. That was alcoholic Josh, and alcoholic Josh was reckless. Alcoholic Josh pretty much didn't give a darn. Alcoholic Josh was hot headed. Alcoholic Josh, you know, um, I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy here, but alcoholic Josh was quick to get into it with people and so on and so forth. So there was that me. But then after I got sober, there was a much smarter version of me. And the way I stayed safe after I got sober is I started using my brain, started using my mind. The first thing I decided to do is not to mess around in cities that have a really high crime rate, right? So Milwaukee, St. Louis, Chicago, all those places are out of the question. And if I do have to go through those places, I don't spend more than a day or two there, right? Because, and it's not so much that I'm scared to be there, but what it is, and again, I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy, but I know how I am. And I know that when people get to talking smack to me, when people get to talking smack to me, I generally want to talk smack back, and I'm generally ready to fight if somebody wants to take it there. Now, I don't do that if somebody just yells something out quick at me, right? I don't, if somebody just yells, get a job, or just some other quick insult, I don't really respond to it usually. But if someone takes it further than that, if they start saying more stuff, if they start talking smack to me for like a minute, that's when I'm ready to go. That's when I'm ready to fight. So this is why I stayed away from places like Chicago, for example, because I know for a fact that eventually I'd be standing on a corner panhandling somewhere, and a carload of gang members, like members of the Spanish Cobras, would pull up at a red light that I was at. And one of them would start talking smack to me. And like I just said, I've got that take no crap mentality. So I'd yell back at them, F you, and start talking my own smack and be ready to go. And, they would turn their car around and maybe shoot me, right? So I'm not trying to get shot over some stuff that doesn't even really need to be taking place, right? So I stayed away from, dangerous places. Generally, those are big cities like Milwaukee, Chicago, St. Louis. I didn't mess with big cities. I like cities that are like mid-sized. I like cities that were anywhere between 50,000 people and 200,000 people. Big enough to have all your modern conveniences, but generally too small to have a really high crime rate. Although there are some small towns that have a really high crime rate too. Racine is one of those. Mount Vernon, or what is it called? I think it's called Mount Vernon in Michigan. Mount something in Michigan. As soon as you get into the Michigan border from the other side of Chicago, there's this little town that's rough as hell. I forgot what name it is. But there's a lot of rough small towns in Michigan too. You got Saginaw, you got Muskegon, you got a bunch of stuff. Anyway, I stayed away from places I knew to have a high violence level, because I know that I was the type of dude not to take smack from too many people for too long. So I knew I'd end up getting seriously hurt if I hung around those places, right? Another thing I started doing was I stayed away from homeless encampments. I did not sleep, generally speaking, where other homeless people slept. I would sleep under a bridge, but I would make sure that it wasn't like one that was taken over by other homeless people. or if the bridge I found did have other homeless people, it would be like one other person that was down there or something. And that kept me out of a lot of trouble because there's a lot of drama that goes on in homeless encampments. And being sober, I had the presence of mind just to stay away from that stuff. It's a trap. You're going to get into a lot more drama than you need to. You're probably going to get arrested a bunch of times. Just stay away from homeless encampments, right? So that was another thing I did. Another thing I did along those same lines is I stayed away from places that I know to have a very high homeless population. That goes for most of the South, like anything Tennessee and south of there, and most of the West, because in the South and in the West, there's so many homeless people out there that nobody cares when they see you, right? You could stand out there all day with a sign in 100-degree heat and not get a thing from anybody because there's somebody on every corner. They see it every day. They're desensitized to it. So that was another thing. I also made sure to get motel rooms when I could, and that was that increased my safety quite a bit. And I just made sure to make sure that I knew my surroundings at all times. Now, I did this when I was reckless, too. I mean, that's just part of being from the streets. But I got really good at understanding when situations were going to get bad, sometimes even a full day or two before they got bad, right? I got good at seeing things coming before they took place. So basically, the way I stayed safe in the streets, and it was by no means safe, but I had a safer go of it than a lot of other people because I stayed away from a lot of stuff that I knew was going to make trouble for me, you know. And I didn't do some of the stuff that other homeless people do. I didn't steal. I stole once in a while, but I didn't make a career out of stealing. I didn't get myself involved in any. Whenever I saw other homeless people, I was cordial with them. I was friendly with them. But I wasn't fitting to go and hang out with them at night. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I stayed safe out there. I basically stayed solo. I stayed away from other people's houses, had some bad experiences early on with going to people's houses. So I really didn't let people take me to their houses. And that probably saved me from any number of nightmarish situations. I didn't try to pick up women too much. That's another thing that can get people in a lot of trouble. There's a lot of homeless guys, especially younger homeless guys, who will pick up on women and they'll end up sleeping with some woman and they'll get hit with a rape charge. And the reason they get hit with a rape charge, what happens is, you know, a young homeless man walks into a bar, starts flirting with some girl. Girl's liking it. Girl takes him home. They sleep together, whatever. 2 days later, this girl's friends see this same guy who just slept with their friend panhandling on the side of some highway in town. So they start telling her this. She gets all embarrassed. She's got to figure out a way to save face. So she starts telling people she was raped. There's a bunch of homeless people sitting in jail just because of stuff like that. Now, it'd be harder for a woman to get away with a story like that in today's world. But, you know, years ago, it was a lot easier to make up a story like that. Didn't happen to me, but then again, I didn't mess around too much like that. I did have like relationships with women and I did sleep with women and stuff, but I generally didn't let them know I was homeless. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole we can go down another day. But basically, I just used my head. I used my brain. I stayed away from stuff that I knew was guaranteed drama. I rode solo until it was time for me to change my life when I got here to Ames. And then you guys know the rest. I got my high school diploma here, got into college, graduated college. You know the rest. So that's how I stayed safe in the streets. My Venmo is linked down below. Please show your love, and I'll talk to you guys soon.